What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from the Tree House Brewing Company, and they're headquartered in Charlton, Massachusetts, and this is their Lights Out. So this is an American pale ale that comes in at 5.8% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed. Time of review. This can is approximately 3 weeks old. I'm gonna give a huge thanks and shout out once again to a couple very good friends of mine and fellow beer tubers, Dan and Mike over at FLX Beer Reviews for this beer. So huge thanks to them. In the description box, I'll post a link to their channel. Fantastic dudes, hilarious channel. Go check them out. Recently, we had a little bit of a beer tuber get together in Albany, New York, and we hit up some breweries, including Druthers, the Druthers Brewing Company, the Fines Brewing Company, and then on the way home, we went up to the new Saratoga Springs location of Tree House. Had a couple pours, had some pizza, and brought home some beer. And before we parted ways, we split up some beers. And I believe this specific beer came from Mike, so huge thanks to him for this one. But both Dan and Mike as a whole, because I do have beers from both of them from Tree House. So anyway, on the back here it says, "Lights Out is an historic Tree House Pale Ale brewed to celebrate our past and the various iterations through which we have grown and evolved as a creative individual." Shout out to the train going by or just ruined the review. We're not going to restart though, train. Fuck you, man. Anyway, it says, it aims to pack all of the flavor and character of a Treehouse IPA or double IPA into a more rounded, sessionable beverage, soft, citrusy, and delightful. Enjoy. So yeah, they don't ever tell you, you know, specifically the hops for the most part. Sometimes they do if they're like real proud and they go down to like, you know, New Zealand hops and they'll talk all about it. But for like these classic beers, this is the most checked in pale ale on Untapped from Tree House. So this is like probably their most popular pale ale. Anyway, we're going to crack it open, get into the hashtag proper glassware. So this is the glass that you're supposed to buy like a pour and then they let you buy the glass. However, we had a different experience at the Saratoga Springs one where they were just selling this glass. I think it was $10. You could just buy this glass, the Tree House glass. It was $10. So I just bought one. I got a couple half pours. I got a couple 4-packs, and I just bought this. So I thought that was cool. I love it. This is a heavy duty glass, has the Tree House etched logo etched in the side. So yeah, I believe it holds 18 ounces too. So we'll give it a nice solid pour here. A little bit aggressive, but not too crazy. I'll pour the rest in at the end, but that is a beautiful looking beer for sure. Throw this over here. So how does that look in the hashtag proper glassware? Absolutely phenomenal, if we're being honest here. It looks awesome. As you can see, it has this beautiful like honey orange color, very murked, aka murky and turbid. Has 3 fingers of this off-white, super creamy looking head. There's a couple bigger bubbles, but for the most part, very creamy looking. Again, off-white, almost eggshell white. Can't really see through it. It looks fantastic in the glass. So let's get a nose. Oh yeah. So I saw that Dan checked this into Untapped like yesterday. I think it was yesterday. And he was like, man, very impactful for the ABV and the fact that it's a pale ale, and he really enjoyed it. I think he gave it like a 4.25. Right off the rip, this definitely smells like a 7-8% like hazy IPA. Tons of pithy and juicy orange and tangerine. Peach, apricot, big stone fruit vibe, a little bit of like a sweet melon and pineapple. Has a nice earthy kind of, like an earthy floral character. Like, yeah, it's definitely different from the aspect. I'm thinking like herbaceousness, maybe even a little pine or something, but this is like definitely very floral and quite earthy in the nose. Has a touch of that like vanilla thing that I get with a lot of Tree House beers. A lot of people say bubblegum because the yeast they use. I think I interpret that as vanilla more so than bubblegum, and I have an issue of doing that. Even some Hop Butcher beers over the years and some other breweries where people are like, oh, I got big bubblegum, and I'm like, I get more vanilla. But then sometimes I get bubblegum when people say vanilla, so it's definitely probably most likely the yeast in here. Yeah, now I go back, it's like freshly squeezed orange juice, almost Julius-esque, but not like as big. It smells like a super sessionable, crushable hazy pale ale. I mean, you're talking a sub 6% pale ale that has a beautiful aroma. And yeah, I think this is just going to be a really nice crusher of a pale ale with some nice flavor. So let's get in it. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again to Dan and Mike, more specifically Mike for this one. If I said Dan earlier, it's because I don't know what I'm doing, but pretty sure Mike was the one who gave me this. And he gave me this and another pale ale, and then Dan gave me a variant of their, was it their very doppelganger? Their doubleganger. So many fucking Tree House beers. Cheers, everyone. That's nice. That is real nice. Didn't even mention it in the nose because I really wasn't getting it, but this has a nice malt character to it as well. And I think I have a tendency to forget that a lot of times when you're drinking a pale ale. A lot of people will be saying, you know, what's the difference between like a pale ale and an IPA? And a lot of times there isn't a huge difference. Like a brewer would be like, oh, here's a pale ale, here's an IPA, and they'll taste very similar. Like they'll just be hop to piss and very hop eccentric. This is a proper pale ale from the perspective that the malt character is here. It's definitely noticeable, but it's not the predominant note. But once you take that first sip, you're like, okay, there's a malt character in here that's unmistakable. So body on this one for 5.8% is very impressive. It's like medium, a touch over medium. We're talking a 5.8% beer. I'm thinking this is going to be like, you know, lower side of medium, maybe higher side of light. Has a little bit more oomph here. Makes it seem like more in that 7% realm than 5.8. The mouthfeel, it has that beautiful, luscious kind of mouthfeel Tree House is known for. It's a little bit softer than anticipated, even though it is still mild to moderately carbonated. It has a creaminess to it. It smooths out on the second half of the palate. Beautiful mouthfeel. Both the body and mouthfeel are quite good for the ABV of this beer. The taste, not going to BS you guys and be like, oh, this is the best pale ale I've ever had. It's not. But it has a good balance to it. It has some nice flavors. It's a little bit more subdued and subtle than the nose, but it's still super enjoyable, a very crushable pale ale that I'm going to have no problems throwing this back off camera after I shut down the review because it's that easy to drink. So forefront is where that malt hits for me. Tip of the tongue. It's this beautiful, like bready, like a sweet white bread. Dives underneath the palate with me the entire way. It hits again on the back of the palate too, which happens occasionally for me. But right after that hits at the forefront, it is to me juicy, almost slightly tart and pithy, orange, tangerine, big citrus vibes, even like a sweeter, juicier ruby red grapefruit. Passes through the palate, that stone fruit hits. It's like a ripened peach, a touch of an apricot. And then as it finishes, it kind of transforms into this sweeter pineapple and honeydew melon. And then it has that earthy floral character I was talking about in the nose. It has a pretty big earthiness on the finish, almost like I want to say an umami vibe because it's not right, but just has like this earthy, almost like floral garden thing going on, like almost like a tomato stalk. Something in that realm. It's not herbaceous. It's not super dank. It's more floral and earthy. It has a firm dryness throughout the finish. I'd say firmly dry as a whole. A mild to moderate bitterness, smack dab in the middle. Leans a little bit sweet up front, but kind of dries out and bitters out on the back of the palate. Great balance here. It is a really nice pale ale. It's definitely not an American pale ale. I mean, it technically is an American pale ale because it's a pale ale brewed by an American brewery, but American pale ale, it doesn't look, this is a hazy pale ale. I love that Tree House always calls, or I should say always, but a lot of times we'll say American double IPA or American IPA, and it's like, sure, but not really. This is nice. I'm not losing my shit here because I always keep it 100 with you guys, 100. And this is really nice, really well balanced. I could crush a shit ton of this. Really good flavors. It's not wowing me where it's going to get like an upper echelon kind of world class kind of rating, but look at the glass lacing is also phenomenal in the hashtag proper glassware. Let's get another nose and a sip, and we'll lock in a rating. 5.8%. Nah, you can't tell. And in fact, like I said, this just drinks more in like this. As I drink it and take everything in consideration, if you told me, if I was doing this blind and I said 6.5 to 7% and it comes out being 5.8, I'm impressed. I'm like, oh my God, it's 5.8. And I said it was almost, 1 percentage point bigger. Yeah, it drinks bigger from that aspect, but you don't taste any booze. So Lights Out is a really nice pale ale from Tree House. I'm going to give it a pretty good score, kind of right around where Dan gave it. So Lights Out, Tree House, I'm going to give this a low 4.25. I'm going to go 4.15. I think that's kind of where this one lands for me. I love this artwork. I don't know if I'll keep it and put it behind me on the pretentious wall of bottles and cans. As you can see, I have the Tree House rainbow up there. So, I got a bunch of Tree House beers. I don't want to replace that rainbow with this can. But I have to have the rainbow back there at all times. Like, it has to be back there. Like, there's no other option. It's got to be back there. So it is. Anyway, like I said, I give this a solid 4.15 out of 5. Price point availability, I think this was either like 15 or 16 bucks for a 4-pack. You're talking $4 or less for a can of this at Tree House. Tree House's prices are pretty good, I'll be honest with you. Like Julius and Green and some of the classics are like, I think like $16.60 a 4-pack, so just over $4 for a can, where, comparatively speaking, like you get other half, it's going to be $18 to $20. Some other breweries, I mean, I don't want to call any brewery out, but I'll just say this. I was at one of the breweries that we went to, of Druthers, Fidens, and Tree House, and there was a 6% hazy IPA that was $22 a 4-pack. It was a delicious 6% hazy IPA, and it wasn't Druthers. So just throw that out there. If that same IPA was at Tree House, you're talking $15, $16 a 4-pack. The fact that that other brewery was charging $6 more, I don't give a shit about the hype. I don't give a shit about anything other than give me good value, and this is a good value, and I'd much rather have this beer over that beer. So just saying. And availability, here's the unfortunate thing with Tree House, brewery only for all their stuff. Now, to be fair, they do have a bunch of breweries. They have the Charlton one that I mentioned, which is the home, the headquarters. They have the South Deerfield one, which I've actually been to. They have the Sandwich, Massachusetts one. They have the Tewksbury, Massachusetts, the Boston, Massachusetts. They have the Woodstock, Connecticut, and the Saratoga Springs one that we went to. So they do have a bunch of breweries, but they're in and around the New England / Mid-Atlantic region. So you got to go to the brewery or trade for it. No other way to get Tree House stuff. It's not like, it's going to show up, but it's not showing up anywhere. You got to get your hands on it by trading for it or going to the brewery. So it is what it is. Anyway, huge thanks to Dan and Mike for this one, and specifically Mike. It was awesome hanging out with those guys for 3 days. We had a ball, and we really enjoyed our Tree House experience. The pizza was fantastic. A couple pours. Now, I don't want to say anything crazy, but they had a cookies and cream milk oat latte, just like actual coffee drink. I bought a 4-pack of it. It was $19. Am I a fucking idiot? Yes. Was it delicious? You bet your bottom dollar. I still have one can up there in my fridge. And I'll tell you what, I've drank one every 4 or 5 days. It is fucking delicious. It is so good. It's one of the best coffee drinks I've ever had. Am I upset I paid, $4.75 a can? I am not. Would I do that again? I don't know. But the cookies and cream milk oat latte from Tree House, delicious. A lot of sugar. I don't drink a lot of sugary drinks anymore, but that is the lone exception. Tastes exactly like cookies and cream, but it's not over the top sweet, and it's just rich, and oh my God, it was so good. So why am I talking about their coffee in a beer review? Because I can. And I am. So anyway, appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. If you've had this one before, post in the comment section. I do have more Tree House beers to review. You will see them in the next couple weeks, maybe next month or so. I got their Days. I got that very double ganger. I got, what was the other one? Bison was the Pale Ale. And I also got the Tree of Life barley wine, which I don't know if I'll review that one soon or wait on that, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm shutting this one down to the next one. Cheers. Like I said, if you've had this one, please post in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. Cheers.